Is Indian democracy under threat? This is a question that has been reverberating across the vibrant and diverse nation that is India. To understand the gravity of this question, we first need to, very briefly, revisit the concept of democracy. Democracy, in its simplest form, is a system where the people have the power to decide, to voice their opinions, and to shape their own future. It's a system that thrives on the principles of equality, freedom, and justice. Now, let's turn our gaze towards India, the world's largest democracy, a nation that takes pride in its democratic setup, its rich cultural diversity, and the spirit of unity in diversity. But as we stand here today, we can't help but ask if the essence of this democracy is under threat. In recent years, there have been growing concerns about the state of Indian democracy. There is a palpable sense of unease, an undercurrent of worry that seems to be growing with each passing day. There are whispers of institutions being undermined, of dissent being stifled, of voices being silenced. The question we must ask ourselves is not just whether Indian democracy is under threat, but also why such a question is being raised in the first place. Is it merely a baseless fear, a figment of some overactive imaginations? Or is there a genuine cause for concern, a real reason to fear for the future of this great nation? These are not questions that can be answered lightly. They require deep introspection, careful analysis, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. As we navigate through these murky waters, it's crucial that we remain open to different perspectives, that we listen to all sides of the story, and that we strive to separate fact from fiction. As we continue this journey, it's important to remember that the strength of a democracy lies in its people. The power to shape the future of India rests in the hands of its citizens, and it is this power that must be protected at all costs. Let's delve deeper into the realities of Indian democracy under the current regime. Institutions are the pillars of democracy, but what happens when these pillars start to crumble? Let's take a journey back to 2018, to a time of deep political unrest. The Central Bureau of Investigation, or CBI, found itself embroiled in an internal feud that shook the nation. Two of its top officials were at loggerheads, their accusations and counter-accusations making headlines. Yet, what was truly alarming was the alleged interference by the government into the independent functioning of this key institution. The CBI, much like the FBI in the United States, is tasked with maintaining law and order, investigating corruption, and ensuring justice. Its autonomy is paramount to its functioning, and any encroachment on this independence could potentially undermine its ability to carry out its duties effectively. In the case of the CBI feud, the government's decision to intervene and transfer officials raised eyebrows. Critics argued that this was a blatant overstep, a dangerous precedent that could threaten the autonomy of not just the CBI, but other institutions as well. But why does this matter? Consider this. Institutions serve as checks and balances in a democracy. They are designed to operate independently, free from political influence. They hold power to account, safeguard rights, and uphold the rule of law. When the autonomy of these institutions is compromised, it can lead to an imbalance of power, with the government wielding undue influence. Remember, it's not just about the CBI, it's about the judiciary, the election commission, the media, and other institutions that sustain our democracy. When these institutions falter, they risk becoming mere puppets in the hands of those in power, which can lead to the erosion of democratic values and principles. The CBI feud of 2018 serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers lurking in the shadows when institutions are undermined. It's a warning, a wake-up call, that we must remain vigilant, standing guard over the pillars of our democracy. When institutions falter, democracy wavers. A free press is the backbone of a thriving democracy, but is the press really free in India today? In the world's largest democracy, the press is facing a multitude of challenges. A free and independent press, one that can question, criticize, and hold power to account, is a cornerstone of any democratic society. But in India, the fourth pillar of democracy is seemingly under threat. Consider this: media outlets are increasingly facing alleged pressure to toe the government line. This pressure doesn't always come in the form of direct threats or censorship. It's often more subtle. It can be financial pressure, with advertising from state-controlled companies being used as a carrot and stick. It can be regulatory pressure, with the threat of licenses being revoked. It can be legal pressure, with the threat of lawsuits and criminal charges. This pressure has implications. It leads to self-censorship, as journalists and editors become wary of crossing invisible red lines. It leads to a climate of fear, where journalists are hesitant to report on certain issues. It leads to a narrowing of the public discourse, where only certain voices are heard and certain narratives are promoted. But why should you, as a citizen, care about this? Because a compromised press undermines the democratic process. It means that power is not being held to account. It means that you are not getting the full story. It means that you are not being given the information you need to make informed decisions. For democracy to thrive, for power to be held to account, for the truth to be told, we need a free and independent press. We need journalists who can ask tough questions without fear of retribution. We need media outlets that can report the truth even when it's uncomfortable. When the press is under siege, democracy is in danger. Because in the end, a free press isn't just about journalists or media outlets. It's about you. It's about your right to know, your right to question, your right to make informed decisions. It's about the health and survival of our democracy. Democracy thrives on dissent. But are dissenting voices being heard in India? Dissent is the lifeblood of democracy, the very essence of a free society. It is through the exchange of diverse ideas and viewpoints that policies are shaped, injustices are brought to light, and societies evolve. Yet in recent years, it seems that the space for dissent is shrinking in India. Consider the case of the numerous activists and academics who have been arrested under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. This legislation, which was initially designed to combat terrorism, has been increasingly used to silence those who challenge the status quo. These brave individuals, who have dared to speak out against the government, have found themselves accused of inciting violence, conspiring against the state, and other serious crimes. They are detained, often without trial, their voices effectively silenced. But the danger does not stop there. The chilling effect of such actions is far-reaching. It sends a clear message to the public. Dissent will not be tolerated. It creates a climate of fear where individuals are afraid to voice their opinions, where they self-censor for fear of reprisal. In the face of such actions, it is important to remember that dissent is not a crime. It is a fundamental right, enshrined in the Constitution and essential for the functioning of a healthy democracy. When dissenting voices are silenced, it is not just the individuals who suffer, but the entire democratic process. It is not the dissenters who are a threat to democracy, but those who would silence them. The real danger lies in the erosion of our freedoms, in the stifling of our voices, in the gradual dismantling of the democratic principles that form the foundation of our society. It is a dangerous path, one that leads to the concentration of power in the hands of a few, to the suppression of the many. It is a path that undermines the very essence of democracy. When dissent is silenced, democracy is stifled. It is a reminder, a warning, and a call to action. We must not let our voices be silenced. We must stand up for our rights, for our freedoms, for our democracy. The future of Indian democracy hangs in the balance. What can we do about it? The answer, dear friends, lies in the very essence of democracy itself: active citizen participation. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It thrives on the involvement and vigilance of its citizens. It's not just about casting your vote once every 5 years, but a continuous engagement with the process. It's about adding your voice into the multitude and making it heard. Citizen participation is the cornerstone of a robust democracy. It ensures that those in power are held accountable for their actions. Now more than ever, we need to stand up and be counted. We need to become active participants in our democracy, not passive observers. So how can we, as citizens, safeguard our democracy? Firstly, we need to stay informed. With the advent of technology, information is at our fingertips. We need to use this to our advantage. We must seek out reliable sources of information, question everything, and never take anything at face value. Secondly, we need to voice our concerns. Democracy thrives on dialogue and dissent. If something doesn't sit right with you, speak up. Write, tweet, blog, or vlog about it. Use your platforms, however small, to raise awareness about the issues that matter to you. Thirdly, we need to hold our government accountable. Democracy is not about blind loyalty, it's about critical engagement. We need to ask questions, demand transparency, and expect accountability. We must remind our leaders that they are there to serve us, not the other way around. Finally, we need to vote. Voting is the most powerful tool we have as citizens. It's our chance to shape the future of our country. So when the time comes, don't just vote for the sake of voting. Vote consciously and vote wisely. The health of a democracy lies in the hands of its citizens. Stand up for democracy before it's too late.